In her previous life, Anna had signed her name on the divorce papers so quickly that she completely missed Thomas's bloodshot eyes. 3 months later, her ex-boyfriend stripped her family of all their corporate shares, and her best friend pushed her into a burning building. Yet, the husband she had so deeply despised was the one who plunged into the inferno, trading his own life to save hers. Hey guys, ever pushed away the one who truly loves you because you trusted the wrong people? Today, watch Anna turn the tables and reclaim her happiness after realizing her husband's true devotion. Let's dive in. When Anna opened her eyes again, she found herself back on the exact day she was supposed to sign those divorce papers. Staring at the man sitting before her, very much alive, she tore the document to pieces, marched around the desk, and threw her arms tightly around him. This time, even if he tried to push her away, she was never letting go. Thomas had died on a night of torrential rain. At the time, Anna had been tied up in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Chicago. The fire raged from the floor below, sending thick black smoke billowing up to swallow the ceiling. The intense heat scorched her skin. She had been so certain she was going to die there because of her own sheer stupidity, dying only after the people she trusted most had stripped her of absolutely everything. Suddenly, the door in front of her was kicked open. Thomas hurled himself into the heart of the blaze. He had no jacket on. His white dress shirt was stained with soot and ash, and one of his arms had a deep, bleeding gash. The man who was usually so immaculate, composed, and unapproachable was now in such a state of panic that his hands visibly shook as he untied her ropes. Anna stared at him, utterly bewildered. They had been divorced for nearly 3 years. She had once pointed her finger right in his face, screaming that their marriage was the biggest mistake of her life. She had once stolen confidential documents from his office just to help Kevin. She had blindly believed Chloe when she claimed that Thomas only married her to seize control of the Larson family. Anna had hurt him time and time again, yet the one who braved the flames to save her was still him. Thomas stripped off his dress shirt, wrapped it securely around Anna's head, and scooped her up into his arms. A wooden beam from the ceiling crashed down directly behind them, sending sparks and flames roaring higher. He flinched violently in pain, but his grip on her only tightened. Anna was sobbing so hard she could barely choke out the words, "Why did you come?" He looked down at her, pressing his bloodied hand over her mouth and nose to filter the smoke. "Don't speak," he ordered gently. "I'm getting you out of here." That was the very first time since their divorce 3 years ago that he had spoken to her with such tender familiarity. He managed to carry her near the emergency exit, but then the ceiling abruptly gave way. Thomas spun around, using his own back as a human shield to cover her completely. Anna heard a deafening crash, followed instantly by him dropping to his knees. In the next second, she was forcefully shoved out through the narrow gap of the open doorway. Paramedics rushed forward, grabbing her and dragging her away to safety. She thrashed and fought, desperately trying to get back inside, but the roaring flames had already swallowed the entrance whole. Through the deafening crackle of the fire and structural collapses, Thomas's voice rang out one last time. "Anna Larson, live a good life." Those were the final words he ever spoke to her. She was the only one who made it out alive. Later, she clung to the box holding his ashes for a full day and night until her body finally gave out from exhaustion. Even as she lost consciousness, her hand maintained a death grip on the wedding ring he had secretly kept for the entire 3 years following their divorce. Anna had truly believed that was the end. But when she opened her eyes again, the mournful room filled with white funeral flowers had vanished. Instead, she was sitting right inside Thomas's corporate office. Beyond the glass windows, heavy rain left long, streaking trails against the panes. Resting on the desk before her were 2 copies of a divorce agreement. A black fountain pen lay waiting right next to her hand, and at the very bottom of the page was a blank line designated for Anna Larson's signature. Her heart pounded so fiercely it physically ached. Slowly, she lifted her head. Thomas was sitting directly across from her. He was dressed in his familiar, sharp black suit, his hair impeccably styled. His face was entirely free of burn scars or black soot. He was alive, whole, and noticeably younger than the man in her final memories. He was looking at her with a remarkably calm expression, yet his hands, hidden just beneath the edge of the desk, were clenched into white-knuckled fists. "If you've thought it through, then sign it." The sound of his voice made every emotional wall inside her instantly crumble. She remembered this exact day. It was 3 years ago when she had stormed into his company with these very divorce papers. She had even prepared a lengthy, venomous speech to accuse him of being cold and dictatorial, berating him for using a contract marriage to chain her down. Back then, Thomas hadn't offered a single excuse or explanation. He had only asked if she was absolutely certain. She had proudly declared that she was, signing the papers without a shred of hesitation. Only now did she realize that, in that moment, he had been in so much agony that he couldn't even bear to look at her anymore. Anna's trembling fingers brushed against the document. The printer ink was still fresh. The date stamped at the top was exactly 3 years in the past. She was truly back. Seeing that Anna hadn't picked up the pen, Thomas frowned slightly. If you have any other conditions, you can discuss them with my lawyer. Anna picked up the document, and his eyes darkened. He probably thought she was about to sign it, but a second later, she ripped the paper in half. The sound of tearing paper echoed clearly in the quiet room. She kept tearing until the 2 copies of the agreement were nothing but a pile of shreds. Thomas stared at her. For the first time, the calm facade on his face cracked. Anna Larson, what are you doing? She shot up from her chair, marched around the desk, and hugged him tightly. His chair rolled back a bit as his entire body stiffened. His arms remained at his sides, not daring to touch her. The familiar scent on his shirt made her burst into tears. Thomas was still warm. He was not a cold box resting in a funeral hall. He was right in front of her. He had a heartbeat. He was breathing, and he could frown because she was holding him too tightly. She buried her face into his shoulder. I'm not getting a divorce anymore. He remained silent for a long time. Anna, what is it that you want now? That question felt like a knife stabbing straight into her chest. In her previous life, she had used every trick in the book to force him to agree to the divorce. She had gone on hunger strikes, run back to her parents' house, and caused scenes at family banquets. Once, she had even faked an allergic reaction to medication, forcing him to cancel an important meeting, just so she could secretly steal his file room key while he was at the hospital and give it to Kevin. After everything she had done, it was only natural for him to be suspicious of her. She gripped the fabric of his shirt tighter. I don't want anything. I just don't want to leave you. The reason? I just had a very long nightmare. She couldn't exactly tell him right then that she had been reborn. If she told him that 3 years from now, he would die in a fire trying to save her, Thomas would probably call a doctor to examine her head first. She looked up at him. In my dream, I lost you. Thomas's eyes flickered slightly. The hands hanging by his sides finally lifted, but they only hovered in midair for a few seconds before dropping back down. Just because of a dream? That's enough, Anna. Marriage is not a game. Just yesterday, you said that even looking at me made you sick. She choked on her words. The her of yesterday was truly beyond saving. She wiped away her tears, trying to force herself to calm down. I know you don't believe me, and I don't expect you to believe me right away, but I am not signing these divorce papers. From today on, I will prove to you that I truly want to stay. Thomas looked at her for a long time. Finally, he turned his face away. Suit yourself. Just 2 cold words, but the tips of his ears turned red. She saw it clearly. In her previous life, it took her 3 years to realize that whenever this man was nervous, his ears would turn red. It was just a pity that back then, she was always too busy chasing after Kevin to ever take a good look at him. She let go of him, picked up her purse, and obediently followed him as he left the office. Assistant Carter, who was standing outside, was so shocked to see them walking out together that he dropped his stack of folders. She smiled and greeted him. Assistant Carter, could you please tell the legal department to cancel the divorce proceedings for me? Assistant Carter looked over at Thomas, who replied coldly, do as my wife says. The way he referred to her as his wife made her nose sting with impending tears. In her previous life, right up until their divorce, he had always made sure everyone around them respected her. Not a single person in the company ever dared to look down on her, even though she was the one who constantly put him in difficult situations. She walked closely beside him into the elevator. Thomas watched the numbers on the control panel, deliberately avoiding her gaze. Where's your car? He asked. I told the driver to head back, she replied. He turned to her. Why? I want to go home with you tonight. I still have a meeting. I'll wait. It could be very late. I will still wait. Thomas didn't say anything else, but the tips of his ears grew a little redder. The meeting lasted for almost 2 hours. She sat in his private lounge, looking at every familiar object with a heavy heart. On the sofa rested the thin blanket she had once complained was an ugly color. Inside the cabinet drawer was the floral tea she liked, even though Thomas never drank it. Inside the drawer next to the sofa, there was stomach medicine, ginger candies, and a small nightlight. All of it was for her. She remembered one time when she had gone to the company to see him. Because of heavy rain, she had to stay overnight. She was afraid of the dark, but hadn't wanted to let him know. The next morning, a small lamp had mysteriously appeared in the lounge. Back then, she assumed a secretary had prepared it. Thinking back on it now, no secretary would casually place extra items in Thomas's private office. She sat down on the sofa, hugging the small lamp to her chest. The door opened. Thomas stood in the doorway, looking at her with a baffled expression. Why are you holding that? Thomas, she murmured. In the future, could you be clear about the things you do for me? He paused. There's nothing worth mentioning. There is. To me, it's all worth it. Thomas turned away, perhaps not wanting her to see his expression. Let's go home. That evening, the entire estate was shaken. The butler watched as she sat down in the chair right next to Thomas at the dining table, looking so astonished that he asked 3 times if she needed her food brought up to her room. In the past, she had always avoided eating with him. If she was forced to sit together, she would choose the farthest possible seat. She pulled her chair a little closer. No need. From now on, I'll be eating with my husband. A spoon slipped from a maid's hand, clattering onto a tray. Thomas coughed lightly. Just eat. She picked up a piece of fish and placed it in his bowl. He stared at the fish as if he were looking at a contract riddled with dangerous clauses. You don't like it? She asked. No. Then eat. He silently ate the whole thing. She gave him some vegetables, and he continued to eat until his bowl was almost overflowing, at which point Thomas finally caught her wrist. You eat too. The warmth transferring from his palm made her freeze. He immediately let go. She looked at his feigned calm expression and suddenly wanted to tease him. Hubby, do you care about me? Thomas nearly knocked over his glass of water. The entire dining table fell dead silent. The butler turned his face away, but his shoulders shook very suspiciously. Thomas set his glass down. Anna Larson. Yes? Eat. Yes, hubby. That night, the news that the madam was suddenly addicted to her husband spread across the estate faster than the year-end bonus announcements. The next morning, she went downstairs early. Thomas was drinking coffee. Upon seeing her, he immediately glanced at his watch. Do you have something to do today? He asked. I'm seeing you off to work. He set his coffee cup down. There's no need. I want to. She handed him the lunchbox she had prepared. In truth, the chef had made most of it. She was only in charge of putting the food into the box and had nearly cut her own finger while trying to garnish an egg. Even so, the look on Thomas's face when he accepted it was as if he had just been handed something incredibly precious. You have to eat on time at noon. I have a schedule. Your schedule has to make way for your stomach. He looked at her. Are you managing me now? She stepped closer and adjusted his tie. That's right. Do you have a problem with it? The distance between them was so close that she could see her own reflection in his eyes. Thomas held his breath. After a moment, he said softly, No. The moment his car left the gates, her phone vibrated. The caller was Chloe. Staring at the name on the screen, the memories of her final moments came rushing back, making her fingertips turn icy cold. Chloe had been her best friend since college. In her previous life, she was the one who constantly claimed that Thomas was stalking her, coercing her, and secretly trying to swallow up the Larson family. She was also the one who created opportunities for her to meet Kevin again. Every time she and Thomas had a conflict, Chloe always took her side. Anna had thought that was true friendship. Only later did she find out that Chloe had approached her from the very beginning, just to gather information on Thomas's family. She and Kevin had been collaborating for years, using her as the shortest route to step inside Thomas's private office. She answered the phone. Chloe's voice immediately rang out. Anna, did you sign the papers? I'm at our usual cafe. Kevin is here too. He says he has something important to tell you. If this were her previous life, she would have rushed over immediately. This time, she smiled. I haven't signed them. The other end of the line fell silent for a beat. Why? Just yesterday you said you couldn't stand it anymore. Thomas didn't agree to give me the villa in the south of the city. I need to negotiate more, Anna said intentionally in a frustrated tone. Chloe's voice immediately softened. I told you he wouldn't let you go easily. Just come over, and we'll figure something out together. Okay, but I need a few days, Anna replied. After hanging up, she called Assistant Carter. I want to know which companies Kevin has been in contact with recently, especially those participating in the bidding for the Clearport project. Assistant Carter remained silent for a few seconds. Madam, this matter? You can report it to Thomas, she said. I don't need to hide it from him. That afternoon, Thomas came home earlier than usual. Anna was sitting in the living room, reviewing old text messages between herself and Chloe. He stood behind her for a long time before finally speaking up. You are investigating Kevin? Yes. The reason? She turned off her phone screen. There is something wrong with him. Thomas's gaze sharpened. In the past, you wouldn't allow anyone to speak ill of him. In the past, I was blind. He frowned slightly. She pulled his hand, making him sit down next to her. You don't have to believe me right away, but someone is leaking the bid information for the Clearport project. Kevin will use that information to help Apex Corporation win the bid, and then pin the blame on me. This was exactly what had happened in her previous life. Back then, Kevin had claimed his company was on the verge of bankruptcy, and that he only needed to look at Thomas's company's proposal to adjust his strategy. Believing that he merely wanted to learn from it, she had taken photos of several pages of the document and sent them to him. Consequently, Apex Corporation had submitted a bid just a fraction lower than Thomas's company's. Thomas hadn't called the police. He had silently cleaned up the mess and never told his family that she was the one who leaked the documents. Yet, she had assumed he covered it up simply to have another excuse to control her. Karma truly came without needing an appointment. It was just a pity that in her past life, the one paying the price for her mistakes had always been Thomas. He looked at her intently. "How do you know this?" She had a prepared answer ready. "Chloe has asked me about this project multiple times, and this morning Kevin also wanted to meet with me. I just found it unusual." "Is that all?" "For now, yes." Thomas didn't press the matter further. "What are you planning to do?" "Give them a taste of their own medicine. Prepare a fake bid proposal for me to give to them." "No." "Why?" "It's too dangerous." She looked at him. "You can arrange for people to keep an eye on things, and I won't act on my own. But we need evidence to prove that they are actively stealing trade secrets. If we just avoid this, they'll just find another way." Thomas still disagreed. She grasped his hand. "Can you just trust me this once?" In her previous life, he had trusted her so many times. Even when she disappointed him, he had always tried to leave a way out for her. This time, it was her turn to protect him. Thomas stared at their intertwined hands. After a long while, he gently squeezed hers. "You have to report every step to me." "Okay." "Do not meet with Kevin on your own." "Okay." "If there are any unexpected changes, stop immediately." Anna nodded, then leaned over and rested her head on his shoulder. "Whatever my husband says is right." Thomas immediately stiffened, sitting up straight. "I'm tired," she murmured. "The chair over there is empty. But your shoulder is more comfortable." He didn't push her away again. The fake proposal was prepared in 2 days. Most of the information was identical to the real one. Only the estimated bid price and a few crucial technical requirements were altered. If Kevin used it, not only would Thomas's company suffer no losses, but they would also be able to pinpoint exactly who was behind him. Anna took the initiative to invite Chloe to a coffee shop. The moment Chloe sat down, she grabbed Anna's hands, her face full of worry. "Anna, you scared me to death. You haven't said anything for 2 days. Did Thomas lock you up at home?" "He didn't lock me up. You're defending him again." Anna lowered her eyes, pretending to be utterly miserable. "It's not that. It's just, he found out I'm still in contact with Kevin, so he threatened to pull his investments from my family's company." "I can't drag my parents down." Chloe immediately chimed in. "Thomas is always like this. He only knows how to use his power to force you." Anna almost burst out laughing. The script was familiar down to every last word. In her previous life, she had heard this exact line countless times, yet she had never once asked herself why a friend who constantly claimed to care for her would continuously push her to oppose her husband. Chloe leaned in closer. "Kevin is trying to find a way to help the Larson family. As long as he can win the Clearport project, he will have the power to compete with Thomas. When that happens, you won't have to be afraid anymore." "But how can he win?" Anna asked. Chloe's eyes glinted. "You could find out Thomas's company's bid price." Anna pretended to panic. "That's a corporate secret. You're Thomas's wife. What's the big deal if you just take a little peek? Kevin doesn't even need the full document. He just needs a few numbers for reference." Anna stayed silent for a long time before finally pulling a flash drive from her purse. "I managed to copy a portion of it." Chloe stared at the flash drive, her eyes lighting up before she immediately masked her excitement. "You actually got it?" "I don't know if I should give it to him yet." "Of course you should. Kevin is doing all of this for you." Anna smiled. "Then please pass it on for me." Inside the flash drive was not only the fake document, but also a tracking program pre-installed by Thomas's IT department. The moment the data was opened on Kevin's device, they would know its location and any subsequent recipients. Less than an hour after Chloe left, the signal popped up at Apex Corporation's headquarters. But what surprised them was that the data was then forwarded to an insider within Thomas's company. That person was Project Director Liam, a man who had worked with Thomas for nearly 15 years. Thomas stared at the name on the screen, his face completely expressionless. Anna knew he was disappointed. In her previous life, Liam had also betrayed him. After the Clearport project failed, Liam had wiped his tracks clean and pinned all the blame on her. Out of a desire to protect her, Thomas hadn't investigated further and missed the opportunity to root out the mole. This time, they had plenty of time. Thomas ordered everyone to leave things as they were and not to alert Liam. Simultaneously, he adjusted the real proposal and quietly submitted a new bid. In the days waiting for the results, Anna and Thomas grew much closer. she no longer avoided their shared bedroom. However, since they had been sleeping in separate rooms for nearly 2 years, their first night stepping back in was a bit awkward for both of them. Thomas grabbed a pillow, intending to head to his study. She grabbed his sleeve. "Where are you going?" "You need to rest. The room is so big, you staying won't affect anything." He looked at the bed, then at her. "Are you sure? We are husband and wife, but you once said you didn't want me touching any of your things." Hearing that, she only wanted to go back in time and slap her past self a few times. She pulled the pillow from his hands and placed it back on the bed. "Starting today, you can use everything in this room." His gaze lingered on her face. Everything? It took her a few seconds to understand the underlying meaning of that question. Her face flushed hot, and she immediately turned away. "Don't overthink it." The corners of Thomas's lips curled up slightly. It was the first time she had seen him smile since her rebirth. The smile was very faint, but it made his usually cold face look so gentle that she stared at him in a daze. That night, there was still a massive gap between them on the bed. She turned her back to him, listening to his steady breathing behind her, but she couldn't fall asleep. The rain outside the window grew heavier. A clap of thunder roared, and she instinctively curled herself into a ball. The small nightlight by the bedside immediately clicked on. Thomas didn't say a word. He merely reached over and pulled the blanket higher up for her. She turned around. "You aren't asleep yet?" "I'm about to be." "Did you turn the light on for me?" "Just conveniently within reach." It was always that same phrase. In her previous life, every time he did something for her, he would always say it was just conveniently within reach. He conveniently bought her stomach medicine, conveniently had the driver pick her up, and conveniently canceled a meeting to stay at the hospital with her all night. She shifted closer and grasped his hand under the covers. "Thomas? Milimet? Can I hug you?" His body stiffened. She didn't wait for an answer, taking the initiative to burrow into his embrace. Thomas's two hands hovered in midair for a long time before he gently wrapped them around her back. His embrace was so careful that it made her heart ache, as if he had been waiting for this moment for far too long, yet was terrified that if he held her just a little too tightly, she would instantly vanish. She pressed her ear against his chest. "From now on, you are not allowed to let me go on your own." "I never wanted to let go." His voice was very low. She looked up. "Then why did you agree to the divorce?" Thomas's eyes darkened in the shadows. "Because you weren't happy." Just that one simple sentence made her eyes sting with tears. He loved her, so he married her, and because he loved her, he had accepted letting her go. Yet, she had once viewed his silence as heartlessness. She buried her face in his chest. "I'm sorry." His hand gently stroked her hair. "Go to sleep." The next morning, she woke up in Thomas's arms. He was already awake, but remained perfectly still, probably afraid of waking her. She looked up, caught his gaze, and immediately smiled. "Good morning, hubby." The tips of his ears turned red again. She discovered that teasing this cold man until his ears turned red could become a long-term hobby. The bidding results were announced 3 days later. Apex Corporation submitted a price based on the fake proposal and was immediately disqualified during the technical evaluation round. Thomas's company won the project with their new plan. Kevin called her immediately. She placed the phone on the table and put it on speaker. Thomas was sitting right beside her, reviewing some documents. Kevin's voice was full of anger. "Anna, what did you give me?" "The project documents. All the information in them is wrong." "I don't know. I just took a copy from Thomas's computer." "Did you trick me on purpose?" She laughed aloud. "Kevin, you were the one who asked me to steal trade secrets. Now that you've failed, you're turning around and blaming me?" The other end of the line fell silent. A moment later, his voice softened. "Anna, I didn't mean it like that. I was just worried that Thomas might have found out about you." "Can we meet up and talk?" "I don't have time." "You've changed." "I'm just more clear-headed." She hung up the phone. She then turned to look at Thomas. He was still staring at his computer screen, but his expression was noticeably colder. She leaned in close. "Are you jealous?" "No. You just heard your wife's ex-boyfriend ask to meet her in private and you aren't jealous?" "I don't have the right to forbid you from meeting anyone." She reached out and closed his laptop. "You do. You are my husband." Thomas looked at her. She took the initiative to hold his hand. "I won't meet Kevin in private. The only person I want to be with is you." A clear flicker of light appeared in his usually cold eyes. "Why?" "Why what? Why is it suddenly me?" She knew he still didn't truly believe her. The wounds she had inflicted couldn't just disappear after a few breakfasts and a few hugs. Thomas might indulge her every change, but deep down, he was still bracing himself for the day she would turn her back on him again. She reached up and touched his face. "It's not sudden. It just took me far too long to finally see you." He caught her wrist. "Anna, don't say these things if you aren't sure." I am sure. She leaned in and placed a very light kiss on the corner of his lips. Thomas completely froze. She was also so nervous that her heart was pounding wildly, but she tried her best to maintain a calm facade. Do you believe me now? He looked at her for a few seconds before wrapping his arms around her and pulling her close. The second kiss was initiated by him. It was still restrained and careful, but it was enough to erase whatever distance remained between them. When he finally let her go, his forehead rested against hers. I will believe you. From that day on, the guard in Thomas's eyes diminished significantly. He began taking the initiative to text her, asking if she had eaten, where she was going, and what time she would be home. In the past, she had always viewed identical text messages as controlling. Only now did she realize that he had never forbidden her from doing anything. He just wanted to make sure she was safe. She also returned to work at her family's design company. In her previous life, after the divorce, she had handed over full management rights to Kevin, believing he had the ability to help the company grow. As a result, he had secretly transferred assets and bribed the shareholders, and pushed her father out of the board of directors. This time, Anna reviewed the books early on and discovered a few contracts that Kevin was preparing to slip in. She immediately blocked all of them, while convincing her father to adjust the voting rights. The Larson family was no longer his easy prey. Chloe still texted her frequently to test the waters. Anna pretended to still be at odds with Thomas, claiming that tearing up the divorce papers was just a ploy to squeeze more assets out of him. Chloe gradually believed her and started mentioning a bigger plan. Meanwhile, Liam exposed more evidence of receiving money from Apex Corporation. Thomas decided not to arrest him right away because the transactions indicated there was a secret investment group behind Kevin. At the celebration party for the Clearport project, Kevin intentionally appeared in front of her. He held a glass of wine, blocking her path. Anna, we need to talk. You and I have nothing to talk about. You are being deceived by Thomas. He knew we were in contact, so he deliberately gave you fake documents. Anna looked at him, feeling that her past self was truly a cause for concern. A man who had just asked her to steal her husband's documents and failed was now turning around to call her husband the bad guy. Such absurd logic, yet in the past, she had actually believed it. She was about to walk away when Kevin grabbed her wrist. Listen to me explain. Another hand immediately seized his. Thomas had appeared out of nowhere. He pulled her toward him, his eyes so cold that Kevin immediately let go. Don't touch my wife, Kevin sneered. Is CEO Thomas always this confident? Do you think keeping someone by your side with money and power is called love? Thomas didn't reply. Anna took the initiative to link her arm through his, smiling at the people around them who had started to pay attention. Let me introduce everyone. This is my husband, Thomas. Handsome, wealthy, treats me very well, and is also a little prone to jealousy. Kevin's face changed color. Thomas looked down at her. I'm not prone to jealousy. Then who was the person that just pulled me back? I just don't like other people touching you. Is there a difference? He was silent for a few seconds. No difference. The people standing nearby chuckled. Anna pulled him away from there, leaving Kevin behind with an ugly expression on his face. Once they reached the balcony, Thomas finally asked, Aren't you afraid he knows you've sided with me? They already didn't trust me completely anymore. Continuing to pretend wouldn't do any good. You just said I treat you very well. Was I wrong? He looked at her, the corners of his lips curling up slightly. You weren't wrong. The party hadn't ended when Chloe sent her a text message. She claimed to know the reason behind Anna's mother's death many years ago and had evidence showing that it was connected to Thomas's family. If she wanted to know, she should come to Chloe's family's old house the following night. Anna read the message over and over again. In her previous life, this was the ultimate trap. Chloe had used her mother's affairs to lure her to that suburban warehouse. She had handed her a fake file, claiming Thomas had caused her mother's company to go bankrupt, indirectly leading to her fatal accident. Anna had believed her, secretly transferring a portion of her family's remaining shares to Kevin in exchange for his help. By the time she realized the documents were fake, it was too late. She didn't want Thomas to step into that raging fire ever again. She immediately handed her phone to him. I am going. No. This is our chance to force them out into the open. I told you that you are not allowed to put yourself in danger. I will bring a recording device. The police and your men can stay close by. Thomas stood up. No. For the first time since her rebirth, his voice was this strict. Anna stood up as well. If I don't go, we won't know what else they are planning. I can investigate it. How long will it take? A month? A year? Or 3 years? He froze upon hearing the words, 3 years. Anna knew she had slipped up. Thomas looked straight into her eyes. What are you hiding from me? She clutched her phone tightly. After this is over, I will tell you. I won't agree to let you go just based on a promise. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around his waist. Thomas, I am more afraid of that place than anyone else, but because I'm afraid, I have to end everything. He still did not yield. She looked up. You can position your men at all the exits. I will bring a tracker, a voice recorder, and a backup phone. I'll only go in when I confirm it's safe. If there's no signal for more than 10 minutes, send your people in immediately. I promise I won't be reckless. Thomas closed his eyes for a moment. I will go with you. They won't show up if they see you. Then I'll stay outside. Finally, they agreed on the plan. The next night, Anna went to the old house alone. Thomas and the police waited a few hundred meters away. The tracking device was hidden inside her necklace, and the voice recorder was tucked into her pocket. Chloe was standing in the pitch-black living room. Kevin was there too. Anna pretended to be surprised. Why is he here? Chloe closed the door. Anna, we just want to help you see the truth. She handed Anna a file. Anna flipped through a few pages. The content was identical to the fake document from her previous life, only this time she knew perfectly well that every single number had been altered. What do you want? She asked. Kevin placed a share transfer agreement on the table. You just need to sign this power of attorney. I will use the Larson family's shares to stop Thomas from continuing to oppress your family. I thought you wanted to help me unconditionally. Anna, I also need power to protect you. Anna burst out laughing. Protect me? Or seize the Larson family? Kevin's expression shifted. Chloe stepped forward. Since when did you know? Since you asked me about the Clearport bid. That document was fake. That's right. Chloe's eyes instantly turned cold. You collaborated with Thomas to set a trap for us. I am just returning what you prepared for me. Kevin lunged forward and snatched her purse. She backed away, but Chloe had already locked the door behind her. He found her phone and smashed it hard onto the floor. The signal has been blocked since you walked in here. Anna's heart sank. There was no signal jammer in their plan. Kevin took the voice recorder from her pocket and smashed it too. Chloe smirked. Did you think you were the only one who knew how to prepare? Anna tried to maintain her composure. The tracker in her necklace operated on a private frequency. Even if her phone lost its signal, Thomas could still pinpoint her location. She decided to stall for time. Why did you have to target his family? Kevin didn't answer. Chloe glared at her with pure hatred. Why? Because you were born with everything. A family, money, a husband who is willing to pave the way for you. Meanwhile, no matter how much I do, I can only stand behind you. So you pretended to be my friend for 6 years? At first, I just wanted information on Thomas's family, but you were stupider than I thought. All I had to say was that Thomas was controlling you, and you immediately picked fights with him. I just had to mention Kevin still loved you, and you were willing to hand over your company's documents to him. Every word she said matched exactly what had happened in her past life. Anna felt a pang of pain, but it was no longer due to her betrayal. It hurt because she thought of how much Thomas had had to endure from her. Kevin lost his patience. That's enough. Force her to sign. Anna backed toward the window. Do you really think a piece of paper signed under duress will have any legal value? As long as it has your signature, I'll take care of the rest. Kevin grabbed her arm. She immediately used the small pepper spray hidden in her sleeve, spraying it directly into his face. He cried out in pain and let go. She shoved Chloe aside and dashed toward the door. But right at that moment, the pungent smell of gasoline wafted up from the hallway. A fire erupted at the foot of the stairs. Anna stood frozen in shock. Everything was repeating itself. Chloe was also panicking. Kevin, what are you doing? You said we were just going to scare her into signing. Kevin rubbed his stinging eyes, gritting his teeth. If she gets out of here, we're all finished. The fire spread faster than she had anticipated. It turned out gasoline had already been poured all around the house. She ran to the back door, but it was locked from the outside. Thick smoke began to pour in. In that moment, she was no longer thinking about herself. She only thought of Thomas. He was outside. If he noticed the fire, he would definitely plunge in, just like in her previous life. She pounded heavily on the window. Thomas, do not come in here. No one answered. Kevin tried to run up to the second floor to find an escape route, but a burning wooden beam crashed down, completely blocking the stairs. Chloe coughed violently, collapsing onto the floor. Anna pulled the curtains, wrapping them around her hands, and tried to break the glass, but failed. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the front door. Anna spun around. Thomas, don't come in! The door was kicked open. He appeared amidst the smoke and flames, looking exactly like the final image from her previous life. Her entire body turned icy cold. Get out. Thomas sprinted over and pulled her into his arms. Are you hurt? I'm fine. Get out right now. Together, he said. He took off his jacket, wrapped it tightly around her, and pulled her toward the door. Just at that moment, a glowing red section of the ceiling plummeted down. Anna saw it before he could even react, and she shoved him hard to the side. The burning debris landed inches from their feet. Thomas gripped her shoulders. "Are you crazy?" She burst into tears. "I wasn't reborn just to watch you die for me again." Both of them froze, but there was no time to explain. The police had managed to break down the back door. Thomas carried her outside. Chloe was also dragged out, while Kevin was arrested as he tried to climb out of a second-story window. As soon as they reached a safe area, Anna immediately began checking Thomas all over. "Are you hurt? How is your back? Does anything hurt?" He grabbed both of her hands. "I'm fine." She still didn't believe him and pulled up his shirt to check, causing Assistant Carter and several nearby police officers to simultaneously turn their faces away. Thomas caught her wrists. "Anna, calm down." "I can't calm down. Last time, you..." She choked on her words. His eyes darkened. "Last time, you died." She couldn't keep hiding it anymore. At the hospital, after the doctor confirmed that they had both only inhaled a little smoke, Anna told him everything about her past life. She told him about the day she signed the divorce papers, about Kevin taking the Larson family's shares, and about Chloe luring her to the burning house. She told him about the dress shirt he had used to shield her, and the last words he ever spoke. Thomas sat by the edge of the bed, not interrupting her a single time. When she finished, the entire room fell into a heavy silence. She grasped his hand. "I know it's hard to believe." "The ring," he said. She paused. "What?" "You said after I died, you found my wedding ring and my belongings." "Yes." Thomas took out his wallet and opened a small interior compartment. His wedding ring was sitting right there. After the day she handed him the divorce papers, he had taken the ring off his finger but had always carried it with him. Anna burst into tears. He leaned down and hugged her. "Don't cry. I'm sorry. It wasn't your fault in this life, but you still had to die. I would still save you." She pushed him away, so angry that she smacked him on the shoulder. "How can you still say that?" Thomas held her hand gently. "Anna, even knowing the outcome, I would still go in. Then what was the point of me coming back to life? So that this time we could walk out together." Those words melted away all the lingering fear inside her. She hugged him tightly. "Did you ever blame me?" "I used to." She looked up. He gently stroked her hair. "I blamed you for refusing to look at me, but I blamed myself even more for not knowing how to make you believe me. Why didn't you just tell me you loved me?" Thomas remained silent for a few seconds. "On our wedding day, you said the person you loved was Kevin. You also said that if I forced you, you would hate me for the rest of your life." She lowered her head. Those were indeed the very words she had said. "I thought that as long as I treated you well, one day you would willingly stay. But the tighter I held on, the more you wanted to leave. The day you brought me those divorce papers, I knew I had lost." "Was our marriage really just a contract?" she asked. "No." She looked at him. "From the very beginning, you didn't need this marriage to collaborate with the Larson family. You agreed because the person you were marrying was me." He had liked her for a very long time. Back in college, there was a time she got caught in the rain on her way back to the dorms. The person who handed her an umbrella was Assistant Carter, but that umbrella had been sent by Thomas. When her first small company was short on funds, the anonymous investment that helped her pull through was also his. He had always stood right behind her, never demanding that she know, never demanding that she reciprocate. She grabbed the fabric of his shirt. "Can you give me a chance to love you all over again from the beginning?" Thomas looked down at her. "No. We don't need to start over from the beginning." "Why?" "Starting from the day you tore up the divorce papers is just fine." Kevin, Chloe, and Liam were prosecuted with concrete evidence of stealing trade secrets, coercing the transfer of assets, and intentional arson. Chloe claimed that she had no idea Kevin had prepared gasoline, but the audio recordings from the tracking device proved she had agreed to lock Anna up until she signed the papers. Kevin lost any chance of accessing the Larson family's assets. His illegal contracts were voided, and Apex Corporation quickly went bankrupt. Liam was fired by Thomas's company and forced to face full legal consequences. This time, Thomas didn't have to clean up the mess she left behind all by himself. She stood right beside him during the press conference, making the necessary evidence public and openly admitting that she had been manipulated due to her own lack of judgment. She didn't hide behind his back, nor did she let him take all the blame for her. After everything was settled, she officially returned to the board of directors at the Larson family's company. Thomas was still incredibly busy with the Clearport project, but he came to pick her up from work every single day. One evening, as she walked out of the building, she saw him standing next to his car, holding a cup of milk tea in his hand. She happily ran over. Is this for me? I just bought it conveniently on the way. She took it and glanced at the customized sticker on the cup. Less sugar, no ice, extra coconut jelly. It was her exact order. You bought it conveniently on the way, yet you remembered it so perfectly? Thomas opened the car door. Are you getting in or not? Anna got into the car but still reached out to tug at his sleeve. Hubby. Milime. His ears turned red again, and he immediately turned his face to look out the window. She laughed, resting her head comfortably on his shoulder. 3 months later, she suggested they hold their wedding ceremony again. Their previous wedding had been grand, but so incredibly cold. She hadn't picked out her dress, hadn't participated in any of the preparations, and hadn't smiled in a single photograph. On that day, Thomas had stood beside her the entire time, while she had only wished for the ceremony to end as quickly as possible. This time, she personally chose every bouquet of flowers and every invitation card. Thomas told her that as long as she liked it, it was fine, yet every night he would sit and review the designs with her until late. A week before the wedding, he handed her a small box. Inside was his old wedding ring. You kept it? She asked. I never threw it away. She slipped the ring back onto his finger. From now on, you're not allowed to take this off on your own. All right. And you're not allowed to sign any divorce papers either. You were the one who tore them up. Well, then, you need to learn how to keep important documents safe. Thomas looked at her, the corners of his lips curling up into a faint smile. I've locked our marriage certificate in the safe. Is there really a need to be so serious about it? Just in case you get the sudden urge to tear that up too. She lightly smacked his hand. I only tore up the divorce papers. I know. He pulled her onto his lap. Anna. Yes? Thank you for coming back. She wrapped her arms around his neck. I'm the one who should be thanking you for still being here. On the day of the wedding, a light rain fell. Wearing a pure white dress, she walked toward Thomas. The man who had once died in a sea of flames for her was now standing under the warm lights, safe and sound, waiting for her at the end of the aisle. When her hand was placed in his, he held it tightly. The officiant asked if they were willingly entering into this marriage. She answered even before Thomas had the chance. I do. The guests in the audience chuckled. Thomas looked at her, a rare, genuine smile appearing in his eyes as well. After exchanging rings, he leaned down and asked softly, Do you have any regrets? She shook her head. In my past life, I made a mistake once. In this life, I want to love you until the end of my days. He pulled her into a deep embrace. Not just this life. She looked up at him. Are you trying to reserve the next life too? Yes, I'm greedy. I've waited far too long. She leaned against his chest, listening to his strong, steady heartbeat beneath his suit jacket. Outside, the rain was still falling, but this time, she was no longer afraid. Thomas was still right beside her. He wasn't standing in the middle of a roaring fire, he hadn't disappeared behind a collapsed door, and he wasn't resting in a cold box. He was alive. They still had so many breakfasts to eat together, so many rainy nights to hold each other to sleep, and so many arguments to have just to make up afterward. She could continue teasing him until his ears turned red, and he could continue pretending that all his tender care was just something he did conveniently on the way. After the wedding, when they returned to their familiar room, she saw their marriage certificate neatly placed inside the safe. She turned to him and asked, Are you really afraid I'll tear it up? Thomas closed the safe. It's not that I'm afraid. Then what is it? He wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. It's to ensure you don't get the chance to run away again. She turned around, wrapping her arms around his waist. I'm not running. I know. You believe me now? I believe you. She smiled. Thomas leaned down, gently pressing his forehead against hers. In her previous life, she had walked a very long and misguided path, trusted the wrong people, chosen the wrong road, and lost the person who loved her the most. Fortunately, heaven had granted her a chance to return, not to change a cold man, but to make her realize that he had never been cold to her in the first place. Thomas's love didn't reside in grand promises. It lived in the small nightlight turned on every rainy night, in the box of stomach medicine kept in the drawer, in the wedding ring he had held on to throughout their years apart, and in the embrace that had never truly wanted to let her go. This time, Anna would not let him love all by himself. She would stand beside him, hold his hand, and walk with him for the rest of their journey together. It wasn't because of a contract, not out of gratitude, nor out of guilt for what had happened in her past life. It was because she loved him. She loved Thomas, and in the end, she had made it in time to tell him so, while they still had an entire lifetime left to spend by each other's side.
What a great ending! True love is all about actions, not empty words. Since we don't get second chances in real life, let's cherish the people who genuinely have our backs and cut out the toxic ones.